Why, hello and welcome back. Happy Monday. This is your live weekly dose of real estate reality. My name is Jackie Baker. We talk about all things real estate here. Thank you so much for joining me. And of course, I had to talk about the whole tariff situation and how that's impacted the mortgage rates. The mortgage rates came down like a lot. And now there's all the speculation that this is going to bring up buyer demand, bring people back in to try and buy a house. And I have some thoughts on that, and we're going to talk about it. But listen, I'm going to share with you something, a little fact. Today in history, 56 years ago today, something really important, something big happened. I was born. Today's my birthday. So I just wanted to say, I'm spending my birthday with you guys, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So anyway, thank you, Jen. And I wouldn't have it any other way without having my sidekick, my partner, joining me this evening on this live stream, because, got to have her here. So let's bring on the famous Jen Sylvester. Oh my God, I can't.
Happy birthday, Jackie.
Why, thank you, my friend. Thank you, my friend. Oh my God, that was awesome. I knew you were going to do something. I knew it.
I'm tired now.
Okay, well, you should be. Anyway, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Your viewers are like, what in the heck did I just tune into?
They're like, oh my God, what is it?
What is this?
They're all scrolling on right now. Like, yeah, I'm not watching this.
This is what happens when you're actively a real estate agent.
Yeah.
Right now, you get a little crazy.
Little bit. So thank you, everybody, for the birthday wishes. This is fun. I'm glad I did this. I was debating about doing the show tonight, but I'm like, you know what? I'm working anyway. This is part of my job. So
amen.
I want to be here, and and I love doing this, and I love doing these live streams with you, Jen, and I have such an awesome community. I can't let them down.
Nope.
I'd rather spend it with you people. And yeah, let's talk about these stupid mortgage rates coming back. Oh my God. Okay. So Jen.
Jackie.
The market tanked Friday. And then we saw the mortgage rates were coming down a little bit last week. Today, when I was researching for this, they were down to 6.39%.
Yep.
Getting closer to 6%.
Yep.
So I want to talk about that. I found an article with Narada. So we're going to talk about it. They have an article with Narada Real Estate. They're breaking down why the rates came down because of this whole tariff thing. And then I want to share the Housing Wire article with Logan Motshami. Is that how you say his name? I always screw that man's name up. But anyway, so he has this whole analysis about the mortgage rates and what's going to happen for the rest of the year. So let's start.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. I can't wait to hear this because somebody has a crystal ball. That's an invaluable information.
They all claim to have a crystal ball. So, by the way, Jen, I want you to notice. You see, I got all the little stuff off the article.
Oh, look at you!
And you were questioning me. I wasn't going to be able to do it.
She's all grown up.
I
folks.
am. Yes.
Only took her 56 years, but
it's hey, but I'm here. So
all grown up.
I can't. Okay, let's make it a little bigger. Okay. All right. Mortgage rates are dropping rapidly day by day due to tariffs. It might sound counterintuitive, but right now tariffs are pushing mortgage rates down almost every day. And as someone keeping a close watch on the housing market, I can tell you it's creating a fascinating, albeit slightly unpredictable situation for anyone dreaming of owning a home. This isn't just a minor dip. We're seeing a consistent downward trend fueled by the ripples of international trade policies. Okay, so so it breaks it down, and I want to go through this just for the audience because I'm sure everyone's like scratching their heads saying, "What the heck happened?" So what exactly are tariffs? All right, think of tariffs as a kind of tax ticket on goods coming into a country. When a government puts a tariff on, say, imported steel or electronics, it makes those foreign goods more expensive for domestic buyers. The idea behind this is often to help local industries compete by making their products relatively cheaper. However, these taxes can also stir things up in the broader economy. Businesses that rely on imported materials might see their costs go up, potentially leading to higher prices for consumers down the line, what we call inflation. This uncertainty, what really gets the financial markets moving. So, how does a tax on imported goods lead to lower mortgage rates? It's all about how investors react to uncertainty. When tariffs are announced or changed, they can create worries about economic growth. Businesses might hesitate to invest, and consumers might pull back on spending if they're concerned about rising prices. In times of economic uncertainty, investors tend to look for safer places to put their money. One of these safe havens is often government bonds. When more people want to buy bonds, the demand for them goes up, which can push their yields down. Now, here's the crucial part. Mortgage rates, especially fixed rate mortgages that are so popular, tend to follow the trend of these long-term government bond yields. So when bond yields fall due to increased demand driven by tariff-related economic jitters, mortgage rates often follow suit. It's like a seesaw. Uncertainty pushes investors towards bonds, bonds yields go down, mortgage rates tag along for the ride. So now this goes on to talk about the immediate benefits for home buyers. And Jen, we're going to dive into this a little bit. So the recent tariff actions have had a tangible effect on borrowing costs for aspiring homeowners. With a mere 2 days following the tariff announcement, the average 30-year fixed rate mortgage experienced a substantial decline. On April 3rd, rates plummeted by 12 basis points to 6.63%, marking the lowest point seen since October of the previous year. Freddie Mac's weekly report corroborated this trend, indicating a slight decrease to 6.64. This downward trajectory continued into April 4th, with rates falling further to 6.55%, a significant 20 base point drop from the pre-tariff announcement level. This marked the lowest mortgage rates had been in 6 months. This unexpected dip in rates has had a tangible impact on buyer affordability. For an individual operating with a $3,000 monthly housing budget, the decrease from 6.82% just a week prior to 6.55% translated to an impressive $9,000 increase in purchasing power. When viewed against the peak mortgage rates of 7.26 in mid-January, the same buyer experienced a substantial $25,000 gain in their potential buying capacity. This offers a glimmer of hope in a market where housing affordability has been persistently challenged by high home prices, and elevated interest rates. I'm going to pause right here because you know what I'm going to say.
Yep.
You know where I'm going with this.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate the lower mortgage rates. Look, Jen, we talk about it all the time, how it's just so unaffordable. What's going to happen? Now the demand is picking up. It's going to drive the housing prices back up again.
Yeah, here's the thing is there are so many moving parts. I mean,
Right.
We were talking briefly before the show, and really, you want to know if the interest rates are going to go down? It depends. You want to know if the interest rates are going to go up? It depends. If you want the housing prices to go up, there's just so many moving parts of the puzzle, such as we have these tariffs. The tariffs are going to have an impact on all goods, specifically in the housing industry. Anything that has to do with home improvement and new construction, there is going to be an increase in cost. Mm-hmm. And the person that's selling those properties is not going to absorb that cost. So it's going to become more expensive. Mm-hmm. So if it's going to become more expensive for the home builder, what you might see, depending on how this all shakes out, is you might see less building, less new construction. Mm-hmm. And if we have consistent low rates, now we have less new construction, less inventory. Mm-hmm. The existing inventory, now we have that inventory shortage that has has evened out over the last 6 months is now going to be suppressed.
Yep.
Home prices are going to go through the roof.
Exactly.
That potentially could happen.
Yep.
If interest rates go down. Now, there's a lot of talk of the tariffs, initiating inflation because things are going to be becoming more expensive.
Right.
I heard a report this afternoon that said that the iPhone has the potential of doubling in price because of the cost of what it would cost to make it here in the United States.
Right.
And so what does that mean? That means that it's going to get too expensive. The inflation starts to creep up. What happens when we have inflationary times? They raise the rates.
That's right.
Which will slow things down.
That's right.
So there's so many moving parts. It is hard to know. There's going to be pain. There's going to be discomfort across the board because, we've been hearing about recession. I think the recession's already started, right? Because they can't claim it's a recession until about 6 months into the recession.
Right.
So by the time they officially say we're in a recession, we've already been in a recession.
Exactly.
Right. So I think we're already there because you see people pulling back. We see buyers already pulling back. Even with the rates being lower, I was out this weekend with some buyers. And yes, the open house was moderately busy. It wasn't crazy. It was not crazy. Why? Because people are hearing the R word. And when they hear the R word, they're like, I don't know if we can afford to do this right now. I think we should save money.
Right.
I don't know.
But let me ask
there's
you
a lot of
though,
questions.
Jen, but how many offers are on that house?
There was 7.
Right.
Yep.
Still multiple offers. So I have my team with my pal Stella, and she took out one of our buyers yesterday, and she called me this morning, and she said they went to 2 open houses. She said line down the street from the house, and she said it's still the same crap. That's the only way I can describe it. And this is a house in the $600,000 price point.
Well, I mean, your area is a
nuts.
little different than others, but to your point, I have a closing in a couple days. We've been under contract about 6 weeks or so. So we go back 6 weeks, right? A little bit different story before tariffs, before we were, it's a lot of changes since then.
Right.
And I had the same exact situation. It wasn't crazy. It's not cars lined up down the street. It's not, frantic. However, there was back-to-back showings all weekend, and we had 6 offers on that property as well. Because the reality of it is it comes back down to the thing that we always talk about, Jackie. And because it's like, okay, all this stuff, why have this discussion? Why even talk about this stuff? Why? Because you guys watching want to know what to do.
Exactly. Yep.
You want to know should I buy or should I sell? I get these emails. It's like I messaged you today. It's like I'm getting a lot of questions. What should I do? What should I do? Yep. And not to be a broken record, Jackie, but the answer is not in the economy. It's not in tariffs. It's not in inflation or recession. The answer is not in interest rates.
Yep.
The answer is, can you afford it? Are your affairs in order? Does it make sense for you right now? Period.
Exactly. Yep.
Period.
That's it. It
doesn't matter what the market's doing unless you're an investor. Nope. Unless you're an investor, you don't act like an investor if you're not an investor.
Right.
Don't act like an investor if you're not an investor. In other words, don't try to time the market. Don't be worrying about the market. You look at your finances, your budget, your reserves, right? And that's what should drive your decision, regardless. Jack, I was listening to a live stream today, and they said, if you're thinking about buying, a lot of people are on the fence. They don't know what to do, and they're nervous, especially first-time home buyers, right? And the thing is if all those boxes are checked, Jackie, and you can afford it, and they've got some reserves, and their job situation is strong, and all the things, well, so get the mortgage at 6.3. At 6.3, you can afford it. Great.
Yep.
What's the worst thing that's going to happen? Well, the worst thing that's going to happen is the rates don't go down and you can't refinance. But if the rates go up to 9%, you're locked in.
You're done very
30-year
well.
fixed, you're done. But if the rates go down, again, you have to be able to afford it on the date you close. But if the rates go down to 5% because all of a sudden we end up in a recession, and now the treasury bill, the treasury bonds, are favorable and the interest rates start dropping, so you refinance.
Yep.
Providing you have enough equity, you have a good enough down payment, you refinance.
Exactly.
But you're not losing if you're locked in 30-year fixed. But you got to look at your personal finances.
Exactly. So before we move on to the next, I want to get some. Okay, so David, I just checked for you. The interest rates as of close today, April 7th, is 6.39%. So that's where we are at today. So what else we got? Oh, I just locked in 6.125 through Navy Federal. That's wonderful. Congratulations. Oh, by the way, I forgot to say this in the beginning. If you're watching and you just closed on a house, you are under contract, share the wins. I want to hear your stories. If you got a house, if you just closed, you're moving in, let me know. We love hearing this stuff. So because people are so distraught that they can't get a house, I want to show people that it's happening. People are buying homes. It's not like nobody's closing at all. Like it's happening. Sales are happening. So if you have a story, share it. Also, I forgot to mention there is a poll at the top. If you didn't see it yet, if you did, please vote. And I'll go through the results at the end of the show, as long as my sidekicks here remind me. Hint, hint. Anyway, all right.
What are you trying to say?
Here we go. Did Rocket Mortgage buy Redfin? Yes, they did. I saw Clark's response to that. They did. Yep. A lot of that stuff's going on now too. Like these little mergers and companies.
I don't like it.
I'm not a yeah. So Christina thinks next month rates might fall below 5%. We'll see, right? We'll see. You don't know. I think it is going to get closer. I think they're going to get below 6 and then by the summer. I don't think they're going to be at 5. I think we're going to be like maybe in the high 5 rate, maybe like 5.9 or something like that.
What's her rationale for saying that? Because of the recession?
Yeah, Charlton, why? Because the recession, what did she say? Because I missed her show yesterday. Myron, I've been doing home improvements. That is on hold for now as I'm hoarding cash.
That's not a bad, you know what?
No,
that's a very smart move right now, because what's the worst thing that could happen? What's the, what happens if, or I shouldn't say the worst thing. What happens if we don't head into a recession, Jackie? Well, now you've got a nice healthy reserve.
Right.
Like there's nothing wrong with cutting. You know what? We spend, myself included, this country spends so much silly money. And say what you will say about the elder generations, they didn't have all this technology and all these temptations and all these different gadgets and all the things like egg cookers and all the rice cookers and all that stuff. It wasn't available, so they didn't have the temptation. So what they do? They saved a heck of a lot better than we did.
Yeah, definitely. Cindy, hey, how are you? Glad you're back. Can a new home builder raise the price of the house as it's being built after you've signed a contract for a specific price?
Depends.
I would say, you say depends. I would say no.
And I'll tell you, no, it depends, because it depends on the contract, Jackie.
Okay.
Some builders, and I've seen it, builders build in a clause that they reserve the right to adjust the price based on market conditions.
Got you. Okay.
You got to check the fine print. You got to read all the legalese in your contract, because that contract, they could have that ability in the fine print of your contract.
Okay.
And it does exist. I'm not saying, oh, that might happen. No, I've seen it.
Okay, cool.
I have seen it.
I've never seen that, but thank you for that. Russell, my house was over 100 days on market. Average is 60. I got 20,000 under asking after 2 price drops. 45,000 less than original price, appraised for 10,000 higher than my accepted offer. Oh, wow. That's great.
Well, you know what? That makes total sense.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Because if the longer a house is on the market, the less desirable it becomes, more stigmatized it becomes, and the gap between the list price, the sale price widens. If your price, if you had started, I mean, coulda, shoulda, woulda, and you can't do anything about it now, but if you had started at a lower price in the beginning, towards the beginning of the listing period, then the market would have probably would have bore a higher price. And that's why I always tell folks, it's number one, you got to have an agent that can give you good advice on, interpreting the data for the market that you're in right in that moment.
Yep.
But then make sure you put a strategy together that makes sense. I'm not a fan of marking up prices for whatever the current market is. I'd rather have the market dictate the price. And that's the kind of thing. I mean, it sounds from that data, Jackie, that tells me that the house was overpriced in the beginning.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, you get, at least you get it under contract.
Exactly. And it appraised for 10,000 than his offer.
Yep.
So
but there's a rationale for that, for sure.
That's a big win. Puggy 781. I'm going through negotiation for a house in South New Jersey at this moment. 108 days on market, asking way too much. Not sure if I should give in 15,000 over what I offered. You stick with what you're comfortable with. Don't let that pressure get to you. Right?
How much do you love the house?
Exactly. How much do you love it? If you don't love it enough that it's worth that extra 15,000, don't do it. I just had this scenario. A family member it was my what do you call it? My nephew's sister-in-law was buying a house in Jersey, Central Jersey, and they texted me. They were in a panic, and they were like, "What do we do? It's a bidding war. They like our terms. They want us to come up 25,000 more than what we offered, and we're not comfortable." I'm like, then don't do it. If you're not going to be able to sleep at night feeling like you overpaid for that house, don't do it. P.S. They did lose the house, and guess what? The buyers that got the house ended up backing out, and now they got the house, and they didn't have to come up the other 25,000. I think they came up another 10, which I thought was reasonable. I'm like, you know what? That's not bad. So anyway,
everything happens the way it's supposed to.
Right. So my point being is that you got to be comfortable with it. If you're not gonna feel good about spending that extra 15,000, don't do it. Stand your ground.
Yep.
Stand your ground.
Yep.
So, Sarah, I'm building a home now, planning to close in late July or August. What do you think the rates will be like then? Do you think they'll go up even higher than 7? Should I try to lock in a rate now? I don't know. If Jen and I had a crystal ball, we wouldn't be here. We'd make a lot more money. Just
it is hard. Everything. The problem is there's too many fluctuations right now with the economy. What's happening with the with the tariffs and how that's going to impact the overall housing market, the national housing market. We don't know. I mean, from the get-go, Jackie, you and I have had long discussions about the new administration's process and what the big plan is. And the fact is that, whether you like Trump or not, he is a businessman, and everything he does is his end game in mind. And it's all negotiation.
That's right.
I have heard a lot of commentary about the fact that these tariffs are simply a tool. It could go another way, but it could be simply a tool to start the negotiation process, which means,
and it has,
by the summertime, they could be completely we're in a totally different situation. They're gone.
It could
and
be.
Then it opens up the market. Who knows?
50 countries, but already 50 countries have come back to him and said, okay, we're willing to come to the table and negotiate it. So yeah, it is working.
You don't know. We don't know if it's working. We don't know if we haven't seen anything.
We haven't seen anything, but it's got these countries to come back and say, okay, like I heard Europe now is saying they'll do zero tariffs. It's getting the conversation started. All right. Now it's not done yet. But that was his point. He wanted to get that conversation started, like you said, the negotiation process. So, but I want to just add to this really quick, Jen, about her question about her mortgage rate. You really should be talking to your lender. And if your lender is really good, they're going to be watching the market like crazy. Like my preferred lender, I refer to my clients to all the time. He watches the market like a freaking hawk. And if he feels like, you know what, we're going to lock this in now, he'll lock you in. So you should be talking to your lender to make sure that they're on top of that. They really should be guiding you on that. Now, again, it's not solid. They're not going to have a definitive answer. We can't predict, but they know the market, right? Yep. They know the history. They know the trends. They'll be able to guide you and say, you know what, let's lock in today because we think it's going to go up. Or wait it out. I think it's going to go down. So anyway, that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
That's a good story.
Thank you. I have them every now and then. Sailors, we're under contract in a home in really Weeki Wachee, Florida. I've
so
never
much
heard
fun.
that. That sounds
That's
like
so much fun.
It does. It sounds like a fun place. 1 hour north of Tampa. Tomorrow is our home appraisal. We hope to close on 417, and we hope we can float down our rate if there's any drop. Congratulations. I'm excited for you guys. I hope everything goes well. Hope it appraises and you get to closing. Jessica, welcome back. My partner and I offered $20,000 over on a house last week in Connecticut and got outbid by someone who waived inspections. The listing agent said this seller almost chose our offer. Ugh.
Yeah, you know what, Jackie?
I'm sorry.
So my folks submitted an offer this weekend, and I went through all the negotiation strategies, all the things that they, had at their disposal and what we could do, and left it up to them on, gave them some recommendations, but let them steer the ship. But the one thing that I was really strongly recommending, and I'm going to, I will follow my client's lawful instruction. That's what our code of ethics indicate, right? That's what they dictate. And as long as you tell me something that's legal, I'm going to do it. But I basically told them, like, please don't waive the home inspection. And so, were we up against another offer that did? We were. However, because of the strategy, maybe you can regroup with your agent, because of our strategy, utilizing appraisal gap coverage and escalation clauses and whatnot, we were able to beat them out. Here's the thing, Jessica, what I would do is I would ask your agent to go back to the listing agent and see if they will tell you exactly what it is. Is the home inspection waiver the only thing that beat that you lost on? Was that the only thing? And could there have been anything else that you could have done to strengthen your offer? Just to find out. I always go back to people when the offers that lose, I always tell the agents, this is why your folks
same
lost.
idea.
But some agents won't. Your agent may have to ask. But I would find out, but stick to your guns. Don't waive the home inspection.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Jessica. But yeah, I'm going to agree with Jen there too. I do the same thing with my buyers. Don't waive it. We'll limit it sometimes. Well, I would say most of the time we're going to limit it, but we don't waive it. No. Jessica, don't feel bad about that either.
Nope.
Because you're saving yourself a big headache. You know what I mean? Even if you think the house look decent, things look like, what could go wrong with it? You just no. So don't. I'm glad that you stuck with that. Russell here says having a float down option with my lender has eased my anxiety tremendously. Locked at 6.375 for now. Good for you. That's awesome. That's the lowest rate I've heard so far. Love your content. Probably a topic for another show, but can you request to know the death and crime history of a home from the seller and build in a contingency clause if offer agreement? You can ask.
Yeah, but I wouldn't rely on the seller.
No, you're right. You can't rely on them. I mean, we can't, like you have it in Massachusetts, we have in Jersey, we can't publicly just put it on a disclosure if there's a murder or a death in the home. But I mean, you can ask, but they could still say no.
They could still say no. I would go to the town hall. I would go to the police department and just say, hey, listen, I'm interested in buying this house. I'm just trying to research. Can you tell me? Because that stuff is all published. It's all public knowledge. They post all the police calls and stuff on the newspapers. Well, what used to be newspapers, all the things, you know what I mean? They post them online. So go to the police department. Find out if there's been any history at that house. I would rely on that versus something from the homeowner.
Yep. All right. So Jen, I want to go, let's talk about that.
Crystal.
Thank you, Crystal.
Be here all night. Oh, happy birthday.
Oh, thanks, Betsy. Okay. Oh my God. I can't. Okay.
Jen G and I are going to gang up on you, Jackie.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a damn good job of it already. Okay. So let's, all right. Let's talk about this Housing Wire article with our friend Logan, who's talking about what's going to happen with these rates. So where are we going to start? Okay. All right. We already know mortgage rates recently hit a year-to-date low, coinciding with ongoing market disruptions from tariffs. The more encouraging story, however, is that the spring season is shaping up positively for the housing market. Notably, purchase applications show growth both year to date and year over year. Additionally, our weekly pending contract data and new listings are trending positively compared to last year. All right, so he shares here, we have purchase application data. So mortgage rates hit their lowest point. Okay, so last year we saw mortgage rates increase from 6.63 to about 7.5%, leading to challenges in the purchase application data. For 18 weeks straight, the trends were mostly not in our favor, with 14 weeks showing a decline week over week. We only had 2 weeks of positive results and 2 were flat. So, all right, goes on here, 2025 has been much different. So they have 6 positive readings, 3 negative, and 3 flat prints. Honestly, I can't really speak to that. But what they're saying is that this is encouraging growth, that there's going to be more applications, more mortgage applications. God, I turned 56 and I can't freaking talk. Anyway.
That was happening before you turned 56.
Well, all right. You know what?
Sorry.
Okay. Zip it, miss. All right. So weekly total pending sales. Oh my God. Okay. The latest weekly total pending contract data from Altos offers valuable insights into the current trends in the housing demand. Usually it takes mortgage rates to trend closer to 6% to get real growth in the housing demand data lines. But we have recently seen some pickup on the weekly sales data, and now our total pending sales are positive year over year. So for 2025, so far, weekly pending contracts for the last week over the past several years, 367,776. Last year it was 363,834. In 2023 it was 335,017. So yeah, that's gone up. It's gone up a little bit.
For now.
For now.
I mean, I'll say what I said earlier, in that depending on what happens with new construction, and how new construction reacts to the tariffs and the increase in costs and building supply.
Yep.
You know, if we start seeing builders pull out, because don't forget, their carrying costs is not just, I mean, it's impacted by not only the cost of materials, but a lot of these builders are also providing, bonuses, buy downs on the rates and so forth, and all that stuff adds up. If they start pulling out, right, and we start getting all these, these buyers that they're talking about are, the new applications, these buyers start coming in and, buying property at the same time that new construction is depleting, what's that going to do to housing prices? And if housing prices go up faster than the mortgage rates dropping, there's not going to be any savings. The monthly savings is negated, because it's not about and that's the thing is I know people cringe when it's like, oh, it sounds like a used car situation, when you're like, oh, it's the payment. Well, when you're coming to a house, you're talking about a house, 30-year mortgage, you're living in the payment. Exactly. At the end of the day, the payment's what matters. And so if the price goes up and the mortgage and the interest rate doesn't drop fast enough, then this information is going to be completely irrelevant, because it's going to become more expensive.
That's right.
In an already overinflated market.
So Jen, but look at now they have here weekly housing inventory data. So this is interesting. So there was a change. So they're showing that inventory rose.
Which makes sense. It makes sense, right? Because people are, so that was until the April 5th. So when were the tariffs announced? When did that go in effect? Thursday the 3rd?
Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah. But so hear me out.
Yep. Okay, go ahead. I love these conversations.
I know, isn't it great? Anyway, so they show here they had the weekly inventory change. So inventory rose from 675 to 691. In the same week last year, it fell. Right? Look how low it was last year. Oh my God. The all-time inventory bottom was in 2022, 240,497, and the peak for 2024 was 739,434. So my whole thing is getting back to these interest rates, and I've said it before. What I hope would happen is that the interest rates get low enough where people are going to be motivated to put their homes on the market. Now, I'm not saying the inventory rose because all of a sudden the rates dropped. I'm not saying that. I think this is just, what we've been seeing around the country, the market softening in certain markets, and we're seeing rising inventory. But I have that wish out there that if we get into the 5 range, that this could bring in more inventory and motivate more sellers. But but we don't know. But that's
So
that's on my wish list.
can I play
Right,
can I
it's my
play
birthday
devil's
wish.
advocate on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So buyers buy based on what they can afford.
Yep.
It's not an investment. It's a home. Interest rates, the whole 9 yards is irrelevant as long as they can afford the payment and they have reserves. Okay.
Yep.
It's the same thing for a seller, Jackie.
Right.
Sellers are not going to sell just because the rates drop.
Well,
they're not.
no,
I'm just
because
okay.
if they
So
have
here,
to
so
buy, but if they
so
have to
hold
buy,
on.
Jen, they have to. They can't. They don't want to
They
give up
might,
their low rate.
but
right?
more often than not, it's all about their comfort, especially the market segment that's holding the most amount of inventory, right? The baby boomers. They're
Yep.
holding the most amount of inventory. And for them to sell, the life situation has to be such that it is contributing to, it's allowing them to do the thing they need to do, whether it be stress level, comfort level, whether their investments, their retirement, stock market plummeted, all,
Yeah.
if they're living off the interest off their investments and all of a sudden, boom, they're like, maybe we'll stay
Right.
put.
Okay.
I think that, at the end of the day, I mean, a seller's going to sell when it's the right time to sell. And I think that interest rates affect them less in that regard. I don't hear that being a deciding factor necessarily. Now, yes, are they going to buy? Sure. But you got to remember, a lot of these people that are selling have been able to, a lot of them, unless you've bought in the last couple of years, a lot of them have the fruits of their equity
True.
to take out of the house. So the interest rates aren't going to be they're not going to be as affected with the interest rates because they're going to be financing a lot less. They don't feel it as much.
Right. Right.
So-
but what about all right, you were talking about the boomers, but then you also have those move up buyers too.
Very true.
Or
Absolutely.
move up sellers,
Absolutely.
whatever, seller buyers. So we have that. Yeah.
So it's just
Anyway,
something that just
No,
I mean,
and I appreciate
it's
it. I think
complicated.
it's
so
It's
complicated.
very complicated, but it's either that, it's got to be these rates getting low enough to help people like the move up buyers and even some of the boomers who do have to finance a portion of it. It'll be more affordable for them, or we just got to freaking work like a banshee and build more freaking houses because what else? That's the only way the prices are going to come down is we have more inventory.
Well, and I think that there lies the
Rates
big
aren't gonna do
question
it.
mark is how that happens.
I know.
I don't know how that happens. I don't know how we get more inventory, especially with what's happening right now. But like we just said, that could all change in 2 months. All of a sudden the things lighten up. And I know the National Association of Home Builders are lobbying big time with the White House to work with them. They're not happy. They're not happy with what's happening right now.
Yep.
Because it is going to push a lot of home builders out of business. A lot of the smaller home builders,
Right.
the big guys, the big guns, the ones that that I know you like to you've researched and all the things. A lot of people complain about, but like the smaller builders,
Oh yeah.
it's going to be
Yep.
tough. It's going to be tough for them to actually survive this. So
Yep. Oh, Stuart says, "Hey, Stuart, thanks for being here. Interest rates are just under 4%."
yeah, the
Canada.
Canadian, you can't compare the Canadian to the U.S. market though, right?
No, but it's cool seeing under 4% again. I know if it's
Correct
cool
me if I'm
or if
wrong.
it gives me agita because it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
I think
crap.
they
Yeah.
can only, if I remember correctly, they can only on the Canadian residents, on the Canadian real estate side of things, their interest rate automatically adjusts. They don't have 30-year fixed mortgages
Right.
in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So great, they have 4%. Next year there's 5. Next year it's 6, so on
Yeah.
and so forth. So I don't know. I'd rather take a higher rate that's predictable.
Right. I agree. Krista says, "I'm happy I got outbid on the first few homes. I ended up getting one way better than I imagined. Disappointed to get outbid, but sometimes it's for the best." Good for you, Krista. Yes. Thank you for that. Good. But it's so true. Like when that happens to my clients, I always say they don't like hearing it, but it's the truth. This wasn't the house.
Yep.
It wasn't the house. The right one's going to come up. So Charlton says, I feel bad for new home buyers, families. Parents can't help children anymore with down payment. Their retirement just vanished. I don't know about vanished. We're not there yet. Let's not go there, Charlton.
Yeah, and you know what? You know what? Can I just offer my 2 cents on that too?
Yeah.
Is because Jackie, that I am like glass half full.
I know.
The way of, trying to look at the upside of things.
Yep.
And okay, so we look at having, we talk a lot about this, you and I, because we have, older children. Mine are 23 and 18, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I am not made of money, and I don't have a big nest egg that I can just give them $50,000 down payment and all the things.
Right.
But is that bad?
No.
My parents didn't give me a red cent.
No, mine neither.
Nothing. I worked my butt off to get where I'm at, starting with a small condo and slowly building. Bought this house. Took me 16 years before I could actually fully renovate it. Did a lot of the work myself, my husband and I. I think there's value in that. And I think we feel, not to negate how hard it is, not to negate the struggle and the affordability issue is ginormous. However, I think the silver lining is that, yes, maybe you can't afford because you can't get mom and dad's help, grandmother's help, whatever. You have to maybe live in an area that is not your primary area, your favorite, or your house is smaller, or it's not as nice. But isn't skin in the game good? Like, doesn't that build character and teaches you how to earn money and save and all the virtues that I think we've lost in the society?
I agree. Totally.
So.
David has a question. What kind of feedback should we get from a buying agent after looking at a house? So I'm assuming you're selling the house and you're talking about buyer's agent showing your house. You're asking for feedback from the agent. Can we just clarify that?
That's what I'm kind of thinking too.
That's what I'm thinking too. That's how I'm reading that. David, if you could just clarify that for us. Because, Jen and I always have something to say. So we'll, anyway, we got a lively chat again. There you go, Jen, that freaking sound deck. Anyway, Blue Sky. Joke, a broker was working with a client who wanted to buy a hockey rink but had trouble estimating closing costs. She ended up losing the client because she could only give him a ballpark estimate. Thank you, Jen. I was waiting for that. That was a good one. Thank you for the joke. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, give a thumbs up. I appreciate it because the more people like it, this gets out on other people's feeds. So thank you, KA. You're lucky I love you, girl, because you get. Yeah. Krista says we need more starter, affordable, small homes built in my area. Everything new is $1 million plus here. I agree with you. We got to stop those McMansions.
Well, what's going to end up happening is you can't, when there's demand and there's people that are willing to pay, it'll never change. So what's going to happen is I think we're going to see some major migration in the U.S. And you're going to say, you know what, I can't afford it here, so I don't want to, but I need to. Leave. I need to leave. I need to leave California. It's happening already in California. It's happening in California. It's already started, but it's though I think it's the mindset we're looking at is not they need to come to me, but where do I need to go?
Exactly. That's right. Blue Sky says 2008 is back. Some builders are offering 0 down payment and even rent to own. Blue Sky, where are you? Remind me, what market are you in again? Where are you? Because I'm curious to know. I'm an inquiring mind. I need to know. Boston Cheryl, how are you? Jen's right. Interest rates would have played a role in my decision to sell Massachusetts home only if I wanted to stay in the area, hoping for builder incentives when I buy in North Carolina. Thank you for the birthday wishes, Cheryl. I appreciate it. Thank you, Corey. Everybody's.
I'm going to get hammered after this live stream, folks. Jackie's gonna kill me.
You have no idea. I totally.
It's a good thing we're states apart.
Yeah, listen, I'll be happy to get in my car and drive the 4 hours up there tomorrow.
I know you will.
Anyway, I totally agree with what you said, Jen. I think social media makes people compare themselves to others, not seeing the struggle behind each person's success. Great message. Yes.
Amen.
It's so true.
Yep.
Jen has words of wisdom every now and then, and we should all
It's
listen to her.
once in a decade.
Yes, she does has a good idea. And so anyway, Sarah, my mother passed away last year. I'm so sorry. And we just closed on the house my parents built together and I grew up in. That is how I'm able to build along with a very good job. I'm forever thankful for that.
They created that for you. That's their legacy.
I feel your pain. I had the same thing just a few years ago. So I feel your pain. Everyone, migrate with me to North Carolina and leave the crazy prices in Massachusetts. Watch it. Jersey's coming too.
Yep. I think that's going to happen. I mean, I think that there was a lot of shift, happening after the election. And I think there's going to be a lot of shift heading forward because the prices aren't giving up here. And unless there's a hike in wages, which in order for the hike, it's like what comes first, the chicken or the egg? The wages need to come up to meet the prices to match the affordability. But in order for the wages to come up, the person paying the wages has to be able to afford to pay the wages, which means that there's got to be more, the goods have to be cheaper. And it's a vicious cycle. It's a vicious circle.
Yes, Cindy, it's my birthday and it's not Jen's cue.
My hands are right here. I feel like I'm being arrested. Show me your hands. Which is something on my bucket list. I've done a lot of things that hopefully never get arrested.
All right, Jen G, I won't forget the poll. What time are we at? Okay, we got in about like 5 minutes. Remind me I got to do the poll because people are still chiming in. We have 244 votes on the poll so far. Oh my gosh, you guys are 245. Look at that. Love when Jen comes on. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Appreciate you.
So many birthday wishes.
I know. I love my people.
It makes the reality of like 75 kind of dampens it a little bit, right, Jen? Oh no, 35.
Shut up. All right. Grace, I'm going to break that heart right there. Most sellers are buyers, so the rates matter to them too. Yes, they are. That's my whole thing too. That's what I'm saying, Grace. I understand.
No, I don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah,
I don't disagree. I think, but it's like, I guess my point was that it's like secondary.
Yeah,
it's not. I guess it's not secondary. It depends on your situation.
Yep. It
depends on your situation, but it's not like a catch all be all, like it's going to help all, it's going to help the majority of sellers.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think so. But I think that,
But I want to add on to what you were saying before about the crazy prices. So as I was saying before, my partner colleague here, she took a buyer out yesterday and the town she was looking in New Jersey, I'm not going to say the town, it's out in like Western Central Jersey. She was looking at the comps and their price point's like around 600, between 6 and 800,000. And she's looking at the comps. She calls me up this morning. She goes, I don't understand this market in this particular town. I'm like, why? She said, I look up the comps and all the homes that were listed in the 600 range, all sold for 100 to 200 over between 7 and 800,000. And I'm like, so hold up. Why are they not then catching up? Why aren't they pricing it accordingly? Why are we still pricing it lower? If the homes have sold at that price, why are we still pricing it lower? You know what I mean? It was just weird because we were baffled by that. We're like, we don't see that. We haven't seen it in any other market in Jersey. Like once the prices go up, and then you have the new listing come on, you're going to price it according to what the other house sold for, as long as it's similar home, right?
Yep.
So here, they're still listing the homes at the lower price at 600, even though those homes that said were 600 sold between 7 and 8. And she's like, no wonder there were like 100 people waiting for this open house.
Check the listing agent.
Huh?
Check the listing agent. Because there's always, if it's the same listing agent or the same listing company.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
That could be a strategy.
Yes.
Underpricing is a strategy. I don't agree with it. I don't think it's like, I don't think it's a good strategy.
Not
I
by,
don't think it's a
listen,
good
if you're
strategy
going to go
because
slightly under, if you're going to go slightly under market, that's okay.
that
But
is the,
to drive excitement,
that
but
is
not
where,
200,000 under.
no,
Not to go 200,000 under. That's absolutely ridiculous. And now
nope.
these poor people who had hope, like, oh my God, I can afford 600.
No,
They're
they
going to
don't
have
have a
to.
chance.
There's
Yeah,
gonna be no chance. Now
I
they have
would
no
check to
chance.
see if there's any and what the pattern is. Check to
Yeah,
see what the pattern is
thank you.
because it could be because we've got a couple agents in our market that will do that. They're notorious. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
can't stand it, and it's like you become accustomed to the fact that it's like, you know what, if it's too good to be true, guys,
It
it
is.
probably is.
It is. It
Period.
definitely is. No way, she's 75.
So Corey, you got a big old there you
Yeah,
go from Jackie.
exactly. You scored some points there.
Extra bonus points.
Do you both ever recommend that buyers write a love letter along with their offer? Okay, so
You go first. I got my thoughts on this.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
technically we're not allowed to do that anymore, right? Buyers are not. Yeah, it's a violation of fair housing. Not supposed.
Says who?
What do you mean says who? We're not supposed to do that. Well, here's the thing. Lawyers, this is what I've heard from the attorneys that I've worked with.
Okay.
We stopped doing them when that whole fair housing thing came up. They stopped doing them because there is a risk of a lawsuit. If a seller chose the buyer because of the letter that they sent them, and they chose them based on, their race, religion, gender, whatever. If they did that, then the other buyers could turn around and say, you know what, you chose them because it was discrimination. Basically, that's what they'll do. They could sue for discrimination. So the lawyers here don't want to see it. And when that whole thing took place, I had buyers that still wanted to submit letters, and I would just ask the listing agent, like, would your seller be open to receiving a letter from the buyer? And they would say no, because they were like, their attorneys advised them not to, because there's that risk. So I listen, they do work, but we can't really do them down here anymore. They won't allow it.
So, okay, they do here a lot.
Okay.
My response to that is, if a seller can do whatever the heck they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's their ship. They're the captain. If it's up to us to give them all the data, to go over all the offers in an organized fashion, explain it so they understand all the different facets of the offers, how they compare to each other, and what, from a business perspective, is going to be the strongest offer. But at the end of the day, NAR, who is the one who's making the rules,
I know.
Okay, fair housing, the seller is not under fair housing law. We are, they are not. A seller, even if it's wrong, a seller can discriminate. Okay? That's not for us to judge. That's not for us. We do not have control over free will. However, we can make advice. So what I usually do is, when it's a multiple offer situation, my fiduciary responsibility, okay? My responsibility to my client is to forward that offer as soon as I get it, which is what I do. But I instruct them, you can look at it, but I haven't vetted it out yet. I haven't done the research. I haven't talked to the agent. I haven't talked to the lender. I haven't done any of the homework on it. You can look at it, but we're not going to talk about it until I have a chance to research it. And then when we do that, when I sit down with them, it's usually over a Zoom call, right? Yep. I instruct them, I highly advise that you do not read the love letters, because this is a business transaction.
That's right.
It is a business transaction, and you don't want to be unnecessarily swayed, because at the end of the day, you'll probably never see these people again.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to make sure that transaction is done for the right reason. Now, if you decide on a particular offer, or maybe you have two offers that are like neck and neck, you can't decide, and one's got a love letter, so that you read it. And if it sways it, then great.
Yeah. Right.
But if they're neck and neck. But I'm not anti-love letter. I just think the seller needs to be careful and not let that be the driving factor.
Absolutely.
And that relies on the listing agent.
Exactly.
Okay, it's my job.
Yeah, it's my job too. I know.
And it's not illegal here. I think that anybody that says, oh, don't do love letters, it's like, well, the buyer can do whatever the heck they want to do. The seller can do whatever the heck. The buyer and the seller are not under NAR
Right.
rules.
But the thing is, it's not saying it's illegal here. They just frown. They don't like us
Well,
doing
attorneys
it. We have
frown
to
on
be removed.
everything.
What?
Attorneys frown on everything.
Oh, I know.
They just want black and white deals and all the things. But what they don't realize, Jackie, what an attorney doesn't realize is these are people. These are not sellers and buyers. These are people. And if you have you have a boomer that's been in that house for 40 years.
Yep.
And she had this happen early last year, and her husband passed away, and her kids finally convinced her to sell. And it was the hardest thing she'd ever done to get a letter from a buyer to be like, we're going to start a family. The woman was crying.
Yeah.
It was, these are people. Do you know what I'm saying? Yep. I think that's the thing. The love letters are good, but I would, to answer her question, whoever asked the question, I would check with what, is common, what is required, or what is recommended by your agent for your state. Okay. But you know what, Jackie, if there's nothing saying that you can't, I would say the depends part of it is you got to know the seller. If the seller is an analytical, they're numbers, and the listing agent will be able to tell the buyer's agent that. Don't waste the time, because it's not going to get you anywhere. But if it's a seller who's emotionally attached to the house and yada yada, right away, right? Don't go too deep into the fluff, but just say, hey, listen, you know what? I grew up in the neighborhood, or whatever your backstory is. Yeah. And just let them know that the house is going to be loved and cared for and all the things.
All right, then.
There you go.
Good chat. It was a good chat. Logan. Logan has a crystal ball question. What factors could lead to a future correction or decline in home valuations, and how significant might those changes be? More recession talk. Crystal ball question, Jen. What factors? The biggest thing is job loss. I mean, that will lead to a huge correction, but we're not there. We're not there yet with the job loss.
Job loss. It's the gross domestic product. It's cost of goods. Yep. How the tariffs affect the cost of goods in the building industry. It's the inventory, how that directly affects the inventory. Yep. If all of a sudden we see downward pressure, it is how the T-bonds are affecting mortgage rates. It's all of the above. I mean, I was listening to a live stream earlier today, Jackie, and there's this thing called stagflation. It happened in the 70s where we were in a recession, but the rates went higher.
Yes.
That's a definite possibility, which will screw everything up. I don't know. I'm not an economist, and it's not in my wheelhouse to be able to get into the weeds on that. Yep. I would need to do more homework, but to say what affects it, there's a lot of moving parts.
Yep. So going back to David's question, when a buyer, what feedback should the potential buyer get from their agent? Okay, so if you're as a buyer working with a buyer agent, so you're looking for like feedback regarding the house and what they think the house is worth. I mean, that's the feedback you should be getting. All right. They should also, I'm sorry, you just made me think of this. So I've had people reach out to me saying that they've been working with 80% agents who are trying to push them. I just got an email yesterday from a guy saying that they went and looked at a condo, and they were like, the place needed work, but the agent was just selling them the place.
Because they're starving.
Exactly. I said that too. I said, we're hard for business right now. People need to make money. I get it. But what's the feedback you should be getting? So the feedback you should be getting, you ask them their opinion of the home, what they think, see if there's any red flags, anything that's noticeable, like that needs repairs. What do they think about the price? Do they think it's going to sell quick? What do they know about the activity on the home? Are they getting a lot of showings? The most important thing is they need to go and research the comps and make sure that the home is priced accordingly, or to guide you on what they think you should offer. That's the kind of feedback you should be getting from your agent, but you got to ask the right questions too. Yep. So do you have anything to add to that, Miss Sylvester?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like you gotta push them. They should be having conversations with the listing agent to try to find out everything they possibly can about the seller.
Yep.
What's the seller's motivations? Where are they
Right.
going?
Yep.
Why are they moving? And the listing agent may or may not give that information, but you want to try to get as much as you can because you will craft your offer, if you're going to make an offer, around that. You may go to the house and find out, oh, well, the seller needs to find a house to buy, and they haven't done that yet.
That's right.
Okay. So that might be a very long closing situation, you know?
Exactly.
So
Exactly. Oh, I love this question, Jonathan. I'm so excited about this because I have a video coming out about this. So what are the advantages of buying new construction from a builder over buying an existing home through a
I
realtor?
just got this question from my channel today.
Did you? So listen, buying new construction directly from the builder, if you're going to do that, you really should work with a real estate agent anyway when you're buying new construction. Now, the video I'm posting on Wednesday, get ready. It's about nightmare stories with these big name builders. Okay. And I do share some tips on what you guys should be doing if you're going to be purchasing new construction. Bring in a real estate agent to represent you.
Not just any.
Right. It's somebody that does specialize in new construction. Now, these builders, especially the bigger builders, they will pay the commission. Okay. Smaller builders, they probably would too, but that's something that you got to work out with this whole commission thing. But regardless, you're buying new construction or with a pre-existing home, have an agent. And especially on new construction, because when you're dealing with these bigger builders and you're dealing with just a salesperson, they don't care. They just want to move the inventory and they want to sell that house. I'm telling you guys, come back on Wednesday and watch the video I'm dropping. There's a couple of news stories that I share. I could not believe the things that these people went through. They were like pushed to close. There was issues. This one story, a woman bought a home in Maryland with this company, Lennar, and I'm very familiar with Lennar because I bought a house with them. The floors were uneven. And she said it in the final walkthrough. The floors are uneven. You need to fix this. And they were pushing her to say, no, we need to close. We got to close by tomorrow. We got to close. She stood her ground and they went in and tried to fix it, but it still didn't fix it. She's still dealing with these issues. If she had a real estate agent to represent her that knows new construction, I don't think they would have gotten to that point. But anyway, thanks for asking that question, Jonathan.
I have a client that's going through that right now.
Do you really?
Yeah. I didn't know they had put a deposit down on new construction. And the builder told them that the closing date was moved up 2 months earlier. So we rushed and got the house sold and all the things. And a couple weeks ago, they found out that there was an issue with a sewer pipe or something, that had jackhammered the foundation. And now the closing was pushed out a month. And they just found out it's going to be pushed out even more. And they're talking about getting an attorney and all the things. Here's the thing. They didn't get a buyer's agent that could have read the fine print on the contract with them, that could, negotiate on their behalf, go to bat with the builder, really. And not only that, but having an agent that is familiar, like to your point, Jackie, an agent that is familiar with new construction and the contractors in that area to know.
No,
if you want somebody to be like, I've worked with this builder before, and just because they said a month, don't believe them, because their track record is that it's going to be 6 weeks.
Yep.
Even though they say a month. I think that you don't buy a house.
Clark's comment is perfect. The salesperson represents the builders as a client, not you as a buyer. You are a customer to them. Yes. You always get representation to be an advocate for you when buying new construction. Thank you for that comment, Clark. Yes.
Yep.
And yes, because my 56-year-old brain couldn't put that in words. So I appreciate you being here. I need these youngins to help us out, Jen. Get your own inspection when buying a new build. Yes.
Yes, and yes.
When you guys watch this video, I'm telling you, like, I'm not trying to promote it, but I'm going to promote it. You got to see these stories, because when they had the independent inspector come in, they brought their own inspector in after the fact and it started having these issues. Oh my God, it was so bad. So it's worth the money. You're probably going to spend several $100s on an inspection because you want to do in each phase of the build. You want to bring somebody in to check it out.
Yep.
It's money well spent. Just trust me. Thank you, Amber. Appreciate that. Stagflation is caused by a combination of high inflation, stagnant economic growth, and high unemployment. Economics website.
There you go.
Thank you for that definition. Appreciate it. What else? We got, and never push a client into buying a house. That is a no-no to me. You are the buyer and you have to like it. Yes, Clark, we are the same. I will never, and this is the comment. So I got an email, like I was saying, the person was asking me, this agent was trying to sell me on this horrible house or condo. And I said, like, look, you know what? Unfortunately, they're out there. These agents, like they are, like you said, they're starving, Jen. We need the business. But at the same time, you got to do the right thing. We're here to provide a service,
Yes.
Thank you, Jen, for the reminder. Okay. Jen just reminded me for the poll. Okay. So 318 votes. Thank you all for voting. So the question is, now that mortgage rates have dropped, will you buy a house now? 29% said yes. 29% said no. 20% not sure. And for no way, the economy is too uncertain, 23%. So yeah, interesting. It's kind of almost
that proves the point that we were talking about earlier. Is it's not an end all be all about the interest rates.
That's right. Yep.
It's just a piece of the puzzle.
Thanks, Cindy. See what you started, Jen? I can't. 75th birthday.
But yet you can.
Yeah. We have a quite quick question. I'm worried about an appraisal gap. Is it common in Bergen County? And Wyckoff? Yes, it is. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Sellers want to know you can cover that gap. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. And especially in Wyckoff. Wyckoff is damn near impossible. I hate to be that way, but that market is, it's hotter than it's hot. It's just super hot. Right? Sorry. I don't know how else to describe it, but yeah, it's hot.
It's so hot. It's hot.
It's hot. It's just hot. Anyway. All right. This is it's a really quick. Do we have anything else, Jen? Anybody else in the chat? I think we got it all. Loco Souls Tuning Mods. Thank you. Not enough inventory, not trying in New Jersey. Well, if you don't need a house right now, I'd wait it out, see what happens. Let other people note their life savings. Thank you, Jackie and Jen. Thank you so much. I celebrated my birthday all weekend. I'm a little partied out right now. So, thank you so much. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. So, hey, you guys, did you know Jen Sylvester has a channel? She's got a YouTube channel. And do you know Jen talks about home selling? So go show her some love, please, and go check out her content. She puts out some pretty freaking awesome videos. And
thank you.
Yes, you do. But oh my God, you're my inspiration. Are you kidding me? I'm like, oh no, seriously. Why do you think I call you every day? Jen, help.
I thought you like to talk to me.
Well, I do. No, I'm not going to lie. I do.
And that's no joke, folks. Literally, it's every day.
So also, really quick, you guys, if you need to be connected to a real estate agent in your market, please go down to that link below. Click on it. There are 2 forms you need to fill out. Please fill out both forms, and I will get you connected to a real estate agent in your market. So, all right, you guys, thank you so much. I'm so glad I did this tonight on my birthday.
I am too.
Yeah.
This was fun.
Yes, this was a lot of fun, Jen. And I thank you for the, for the balloons and the music and all the things. Appreciate it.
Of course.
You're pretty awesome. All right. On that note, everybody, thank you, Jen. Everybody,
happy birthday, Jackie.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody coming, joining me tonight, and joining in the chat and the poll. So everybody have a wonderful, amazing week, and I will see you all next Monday. Have a good one.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.